Treason. You have the offense, yes, of overthrowing democracy, yes, of this state and the United States to which you owe the allegiance, yes, by making war against the United States, or by materially supporting the enemies that refuse to enforce the laws, yes. Now, for the Seattle Police Department, treason. See, you didn't respond to an email of documented evidence of crime. Oh. Now, I mentioned misprision of treason. Yes. Now, the Constitution says treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies. Yes, giving them aid and comfort. Yes. No person, yeah, shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses. To the same overt act or on confession in open court. Yes. Now, let me give you an example. I email you ri.pdf. Yes. On that document, there are numerous frauds. Yes. The frauds of the refusal to enforce state and federal laws. Yes. The frauds of the refusal to support the state constitution and the United States Constitution. Your thought was, well, I should motion a treasonous court right now that does not support the laws necessary to issue court orders. Yes. You don't support the state's laws because I emailed you what the RCW says. You don't support the municipal laws because I emailed you what the Seattle says. You don't support the state of Washington because I emailed you what the state Supreme Court says. Yes. Now it's treason because you're making war against the United States of America. You're making war because of your wanting to dismantle democracy. See, let's say somebody made war with a gun against the United States. Yes. They walk into the United States and they decide to take over, and more than likely they're not going to reinstitute their form of democracy. Yes. It's either going to be communism, yes, tyranny, or some other form of government that does not recognize the rights of the citizens. Now, since this government right now refuses to recognize my rights as a citizen, won't recognize the rights of my sons, yes, to be in my custody, yes, because of the fraudulent dissolution of marriage, yep, won't recognize the rights of my sons, yes, to have me as their father because of the forgery on the protection order, yes, and won't recognize the rights of Marilyn Van Proyen, yes, to allow me to prosecute her husband. You have levied war against the United States because of your refusal, yes, to enforce the legislated precincts and districts of each and every state of the democracy. Now, you didn't see it that way. I realize that, yes. But the truth of the matter is, you did levy war against the United States with the intent of destroying democracy. Treason. Uh, Real treason. Yeah. hmm Now, when I sue you, yes. State of Washington, Governor Jay Inslee, yes. Could you get me the names of the precinct officers, yes, that are supporting the Democrats of the state of Washington in each and every precinct, yes, of the state? And then could you get me the names of the officers, yes, that are supporting the Republican Party, President Donald Trump's party, in each precinct of the United States? Now, when the governor, yes, refuses to enforce, yes, the oaths of office, yes, of the precinct officers, yes, because of his want, yes, to be elected the Democrat presidential candidate, yes, and the president, which did not take care to faithfully execute the laws of the United States. Your Republican Party in each precinct of the United States is personally liable for allowing for the levying of war against the United States. Now, when I look through the actual, well, you're obviously not supporting and defending democracy if you have any knowledge of fraud, yes. Any knowledge of forgery, oh. Any knowledge of evidence that is falsified, yes. Any knowledge of the violating of the rights of the citizens, yes. The rights of the minors named, yes. And the rights of the petitioner. Now, yesterday we talked about this confirming of the actual court hearing on the Wednesday before the Friday. Yes. hmm State law says that you have to appear in court to be able to issue this. Brent Baisden, yes, took it upon himself to have court hearings, yes, without any proof that the petitioner would appear in court, or if they had confirmed that they would be there and they weren't, yes. The contempt of court of saying that you would be in court and when you weren't, yes. Now, you are intentionally levying war against the democracy of the United States. Why would you do that? Why are you making war against the United States? Do you, do you not understand? Yes. Mhm. Um, every candidacy form under the penalty of perjury says that they do support democracy. They do support the United States. Yes. And they would never misprison any felony or treason. Yes. Now, why is the United States not enforcing the laws necessary for democracy? Is there some reason that the nation itself is not supporting and defending democracy? Who was it that decided we're going to make war against the United States? Well, is it the candidates that are in office? Is it the candidates that are running for office? Yes. Is it the officers in the precincts? Which is it? Well, who was it that decided we're going to do this? Um, why are you levying war against the United States? Um, you know, acts and omission constituting contempt. Yes. I got this from the Utah, yes, state laws, yes, because I went back and made sure exactly where I got 78B-6-301, yes, acts and omissions constituting contempt, misbehavior in office, or other willful neglect or violation of duty by an attorney, yes, counsel, clerk, sheriff, or other person appointed or elected to perform a judicial or ministerial service. Now, how would I define a precinct officer of candidacy or precinct officer? Is that judicial or ministerial? Ministerial. That's right. Now, deceit or abuse of the process or proceedings of the court by a party to an action or special proceeding. Yes. Disobedience of any lawful judgment, order, or process of the court. Yes. Now, I know that this relates to actual court hearings, but let's say you signed that candidacy form as the president of the Republican Party. Yes. And you didn't get sued yet, but you're going to. The actual document itself was probably the result of a court hearing. Now, when we look at democracy, the government may not suppress political speech on the basis of the speaker's corporate entity. Yes. Citizens United. The Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971 prohibited corporation union from financing electioneering communication speech that advocates election or defeat of a candidate within 30 days of primary election. The problem is, let's say I want to say something to any officer in any precinct. Is my speech in an actual email protected? Yes. As political speech when I email the actual documentation of crime? Now, I would say it is. See, if I were to read today's email, maybe it's a good time to do that. You never thought of an email as protected political speech. But depending upon the content of the actual email, yes, It is political speech when it includes the documentation necessary to vote, as well as the necessaries to get elected to be an officer of a precinct. Yes, it does. Now, when you think of political speech, pooch, as in the freedom of speech, every time you obstruct, yes, or inform any officer of the law to disregard what I say in a fucking email right now, I'm going to sue you in every precinct of the United States for refusing to acknowledge the documented evidence of crime as political speech. Pooch, as in I, the American citizen, yes, am informing you of forgery, fraud, felony, and treason, and how you cannot interpret that as being political. I just don't know how you wouldn't see that as being political. Now, since you're protecting your Republican Party, yes, and all the officers of that party are getting sued throughout this nation, and since you, the Democratic candidates for office, yes, are protecting your political party, yes, I want you to understand that for every individual that does understand political speech, every time I include a law of this great nation, I gotta